Sophia Evans has always been an ideal model in the eyes of the Savannah upper-class community. She was born into the Evans family, a family with a 3-generation tradition of real estate, owning almost the entire chain of luxury boutique hotels along the Georgia coast. Since she was a child, Sophia has been the center of attention. Her long blonde hair was always neatly tied back. Princess dresses were made specifically for her from New York. Piano lessons, horseback riding, tennis, all according to her parents' tight schedule. Little Sophia looked up at the world with innocent amber eyes, not yet understanding that all those compliments and admiring glances came with a price: absolute perfection. In the Evans family, love was always linked to achievement. Walter Evans, her father, would sit quietly behind his solid oak desk, speaking only when she had the highest grades in the class, won a major award, or achieved something worthy of public display. You did well, Sophia. But remember, Evans is never mediocre. Clara Evans, her mother, was sweeter, but just as sharp. My dear, you must always walk like a princess. People will only love you when you make no mistakes. Sophia learned to smile at the right time, nod politely, hide her true feelings, even when she was sad, angry, or scared. She was only allowed to express perfection. When Sophia finished high school with excellent grades, she wanted to study visual arts, her true passion. But Walter Evans had only one thing to say: an Evans does not waste time on useless things. So Sophia enrolled in interior design at Vanderbilt University, a major that was both art and business, enough to please her family. She studied hard, graduated with a near-perfect GPA. She got a job at Thompson & Hale Designs, Savannah's leading interior design firm, specializing in serving the super-rich. From the outside, Sophia had it all: a brilliant career, a prestigious family, a life filled with silk and crystal lights. But deep inside, her soul was dry. Every evening, after glamorous networking events, Sophia returned to the large penthouse her parents bought for her. The house was beautiful, the interior luxurious, but cold like a showroom. No laughter, no warmth, no human breath. Sophia often sat for hours by the window, watching the Savannah drizzle sweep across the ancient cobblestone streets. She put her hand on the cold glass, wondering, is this really the life I want? But then she scolded herself for being weak. I should be grateful. I have everything that others dream of. And so, Sophia continued to live in a life that was as beautiful as a picture, but there was no room for her to breathe. One rainy evening in early April, Sophia entered a small cafe on Jones Street, just to avoid the sudden rain. She sat in a hidden corner, holding a cup of hot coffee, her eyes absent-mindedly watching the water droplets rolling down the glass door. And then he appeared. Daniel Reed, messy brown hair, deep blue eyes, faded leather jacket with dust on the sleeves. He came to her table, smiled, and scratched his head. Excuse me, can I sit with you? The whole place is full. Sophia nodded, almost unconsciously. Daniel sat down, opened his laptop, and began to doodle wooden window frame designs. Sophia couldn't help but be curious. What do you do? Daniel looked up, squinting his eyes and smiling. I do carpentry. Windows, kitchen cabinets, bookshelves, anything that needs the breath of human hands. They talked about work, about life, about the little things that Sophia never dared to dream of. Daniel didn't know, nor did he care, who Sophia Evans was in Savannah's upper class. He just saw a young girl, sitting huddled by the window, her eyes sad. No expectations, no judgments, no impositions. Simply seeing her. For the first time in her life, Sophia felt relieved to be herself. No need to be perfect. No need to be neat. No need to be forced or forced. From that day on, Sophia and Daniel met regularly. At first it was just coffee, then walks by the river. Simple evenings listening to music in Daniel's small apartment, where the smell of wood and dried lavender baskets hung from the ceiling. Sophia felt alive again. She smiled genuinely. She expressed her feelings without fear of being judged. She ate pizza with her hands without worrying about smudging her lipstick. And, for the first time, Sophia began to dream of a life not lived for others, One evening when Sophia was leaving Daniel's apartment, she saw a black SUV parked a few meters away. The headlights flashed as she passed. She shivered, feeling like someone was watching. But then she shook her head, telling herself, it must be just my imagination. Little did she know that night, for the first time, a small door to freedom had just opened, and invisible hands began to tighten their grip more than ever. From that night, when the black SUV flashed its lights on the street, Sophia no longer found her meetings with Daniel completely innocent. There were strange eyes on the street, strange, silent phone calls, anonymous text messages, just a few words, choose the right person, Sophia. Daniel teased her for thinking too much, but Sophia knew. The Evans family, they knew. They had begun to intervene. One evening, during Sunday dinner at the Evans mansion, Clara put down her fork on the bone china plate, frowning slightly. Sophia, I heard you have a new boyfriend? Sophia looked up, her heart pounding. Walter Evans did not look at her, just silently cutting the beef with a shiny silver knife. Sophia nodded. Yes, Daniel. He is a carpenter. Clara sighed. Wood? My child. There's nothing wrong with the profession. But you need to think further. A person like that can't build a worthy future with you. Walter spoke, his voice cold. You are Evans. And an Evans can't lower himself. Sophia felt like someone had just poured a bucket of cold water on her. Not because they were surprised, but because they had already set the scenario. Daniel was not suitable, regardless of whether their daughter was happy or not. In the following days, Sophia's life gradually became more difficult. Daniel was strangely rejected from several large contracts, even though his products were always of high quality. Potential customers disappeared for no reason. Some wood shop owners in the area suddenly stopped doing business with him. Daniel didn't understand what was happening. As for Sophia, she understood. The Evans family didn't need to threaten openly. They had power. They had a connection. Just a few phone calls. Just a few words. They could ruin the life of an unsuitable person. At that moment, Clara Evans began introducing Sophia to Nathaniel Kingsley, the grandson of the Kingsley family, a longtime partner of Evans Real Estate. Nathaniel was perfect on paper. Stanford University. Majoring in economics. A financial consulting job in New York. Prestigious lineage. At a lavish cocktail party at the Savannah Yacht Club, Clara gently pushed Sophia toward Nathaniel. He was polite, smooth-talking, but his eyes cold as granite. When talking to Sophia, Nathaniel only asked, "Are your future plans tied to Evans Real Estate?" Not a single question about interests. Not a single question about passion. To Nathaniel, Sophia was just a pawn in the property game between the two families. That night, Sophia sat alone on the balcony of her apartment. The city of Savannah was a soft yellow. She thought of Daniel, his gentle smile, his rough hands, the way he listened to her without interrupting. Then she thought of Nathaniel, the perfect relationship her parents had hoped for. Freedom or acceptance? Sophia's heart was torn. On one side was the life they wanted her to live. On the other, the dream she dared to dream for the first time in her life. 3 weeks later, Daniel received a letter demanding immediate payment on a loan he had not known he had signed. A credit contract under the name of a company Daniel had worked for, but strangely, the debt had been bought by a financial fund related to Evans Holdings. When Daniel came to see Sophia, he asked in panic, "What's wrong, Sophia? I never took out that loan." Sophia looked at him, her heart aching. She knew. This was a warning. No direct blow. No trace. Just invisible chains. Tightening. That evening, Walter Evans asked Sophia to meet him in his office. It was a dark wooden room, heavy with the smell of cigars and power. Walter poured her a small glass of whiskey, pushing it toward her. "Daughter, it's time for you to choose." He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. Just cold, firm words. "We've spent our lives building a future for you. We can't let it all fall apart because of a momentary emotion. Daniel doesn't belong in our world. If you continue, everything you have, your career, your assets, your relationships, will gradually disappear. Evans doesn't save traitors. Sophia clenched her glass of whiskey. Her palm was cold. She looked straight at her father. And for the first time in her life, Sophia felt fear. Not fear of him. Fear of the way family love could be used as a weapon. That night, Sophia drove across the Talmadge Memorial Bridge, the white bridge that spanned the Savannah River. The wind blew salty in her face. She stopped at the edge of the bridge, stepped out, and stood silently looking down at the black water below. She didn't think about death. She thought about life. A life I chose, or a life forced upon me? Sophia knew. If she walked toward Daniel, she would lose everything she had. It would even affect his life and career. If she went back to her family, she would lose herself. And that choice, there was no way to avoid it. Sophia stood still on the Talmadge Memorial Bridge, watching the black waves swirl beneath her feet. The cold sea breeze cut through her skin, blowing her hair. In that moment, everything seemed to stop. All the voices in her head, her father's, her mother's, society's, suddenly fell silent. Only a small but determined voice remained, speaking from deep within her heart. Choose yourself. Sophia turned her head. She walked toward the car. Her hands shook on the wheel, but her eyes, as bright as the first time she saw freedom. The next morning, Sophia came to find Daniel. He was busy fixing a wooden table that had been canceled by a customer. When she appeared, Daniel looked up, his eyes filled with uncertainty and hope. Without waiting for him to ask, Sophia rushed forward and hugged him. I choose you, Daniel. I choose myself. Daniel held her tight in his arms. No need for promises. No commitment. Just that warmth. That was enough. 3 days later, Sophia received an email from the company. We regret to announce, your position at Thompson and Hale will be terminated due to an internal restructuring. No warning. No explanation. Just a short sentence ending 5 years of hard work. Sophia understood. She didn't need to ask who was behind this. The Evans family had taken action. But what they didn't expect, Sophia didn't collapse. She just quietly packed her things, left that cold glass building, her head held high. Sophia and Daniel moved into a small apartment on Whitaker Street together. No more fancy parties. No more high-end dresses or fancy cars. Just simple dinners together. Sleepless nights worrying about the rent. Waking up to the sunlight streaming through old curtains. Sophia looked for a new job, but every door seemed to slam shut in her face. The Evans reputation had once opened doors. Now it was a shackle, a scary name that employers whispered to avoid. Daniel did his best to support Sophia. He took on more arts and crafts projects. He worked himself to sleep and food. But the class differences between them, something Sophia had ignored, began to show. Daniel didn't understand the pain of losing all the social networks Sophia had. He thought love was enough. But Sophia needed more. She needed a sense of control, a sense of respect, a place to belong, not just an old apartment and broken dreams. One night, after a fight over finances, Daniel threw his keys on the table, his voice heavy. I don't understand, Sophia. We have each other, isn't that enough? Sophia clenched her hands. Tears welled up, hot. You don't understand. I lost everything. Career, family, reputation. I gave up everything to be with you. Daniel looked up, his eyes red. What about me, Sophia? I'm also losing myself trying to make up for you. Silence weighed heavily between them. The naked and painful truth was exposed. They loved each other. But could love overcome the material difficulties before them and the pressure and pain they felt for each other? That night, Sophia left the house, walking aimlessly down the old streets. The cold winter wind blew. The pale yellow lights reflected on the rain-stained sidewalks. She walked through the familiar city, which now seemed strange. There was no place to welcome her. No job. No family. Uncertainty. Only herself. And that was the first time Sophia understood. Freedom is not just running away from chains. Freedom is also daring to take responsibility for your own loneliness. A few weeks later, in a small cafe in the center, Sophia met Olivia Byrne, an independent interior designer. Olivia had heard of Sophia since her days at Thompson and Hale. But instead of sneering, Olivia smiled. I heard you gave up everything to follow your heart. I respect that. If you need, I have a position for an associate. Sophia was surprised. For the first time in many long months, someone looked at her and saw more than just the last name Evans. They saw Sophia. Sophia accepted. She started with small projects, redesigning a studio apartment, consulting on a cafe renovation. The money wasn't much. The pressure was not small. But every day, Sophia felt alive. Every blueprint, every freshly painted wall, every smiling customer, these were the bricks she built for her new life. No one gave them to her. No one controlled her. Just Sophia chose. Late one afternoon, as Sophia finished packing up her project documents, her phone rang. The screen displayed a name she thought she had forgotten, Clara Evans. Sophia's heart clenched. She knew. The Evans family had not given up, and her fight for freedom had only just begun. The phone kept ringing. Sophia stared at the screen. Clara Evans. Her instincts wanted to throw the phone against the wall. But her rational side, the part that had been molded for 29 years into the mold of maintaining appearances, forced her to pick up. Hello? Clara's voice rang out, soft, polite, as if nothing had happened. Sophia, I've been looking forward to seeing you. We need to talk, face to face. Sophia was silent. She knew, when Clara Evans said need, it meant a fatal blow was coming. 3 days later, Sophia walked into the River Cafe, the posh restaurant on the riverbank. Clara was there, picture perfect. Chanel jacket, hair pulled back, pearls sparkling. She smiled, beckoned to her. Sophia, you're getting more beautiful. Sophia sat down, clasping her hands under the table. She didn't answer. Clara put down the menu, her voice gentle. I understand. Young people have their moments of impulsiveness. But now you see, this world is not easy. Your family, Evans, is always willing to welcome you back. Sophia chuckled. Take you back? On what conditions, Mom? Clara smiled without reaching her eyes. Break up with Daniel. Return to work in the Evans Holdings system. And she paused, pulling a file from her bag. Sophia opened it, a labor contract, prepared, requiring her to sign a commitment to fully comply with the family's financial plan for the next 10 years. Sophia looked up, her eyes cold. And if I refuse? Clara sipped her tea calmly. Then the family will be forced to protect themselves. You will see all of Olivia's contracts revoked. You will be rejected from all the major banks in Savannah. We have ways to make your life very difficult. Sophia smiled faintly. So you call this the way you love your children? Clara put her hand on her desk, pretending to be considerate. Son, Evans never abandoned his own flesh and blood. We only want the best for you. Sophia withdrew her hand. No, Mother. Evans doesn't love you. Evans loves your image. And when you no longer fit the mold, Evans wants to crush you. I'm not coming back. Sophia left the River Cafe with a pounding heart. 3 days later, Olivia called her. Sophia, something happened. Our biggest client just canceled the contract. They said they were under pressure from important partners. Sophia clenched her phone, her hands shaking. Every day after that, a bank rejected her credit application, citing unclear reasons. A local newspaper published an anonymous article about a financial scandal involving Daniel. A tenant asked Sophia to leave her apartment early because of the new policy. The Evanses didn't just destroy her career. They destroyed her life. Bit by bit, day by day. Some nights, Sophia sat on the floor, leaning against an empty kitchen cabinet. Tears welled up uncontrollably, not because she had lost, but because she felt betrayed by people who had once claimed to love her. She had dreamed. If she were stronger, they would respect her. If she were more persistent, they would let her go. But the harsh truth was, the Evanses didn't want her to be free. They wanted her to turn around and accept their every arrangement. Late one night, Daniel walked into the apartment and saw Sophia with her head on the table. He didn't say anything, just gently pulled her into his arms. They sat there for a long time in silence. Then Daniel whispered, I'm not the perfect choice, Sophia, but I'd rather live in poverty with you then see you become their puppet. Sophia looked up. In Daniel's eyes, no promises, only truth. And love, naked, unconditional. She understood. If they continued, they would have nothing. But if she went back, she would no longer be herself. Sophia decided, no more hiding. She hired a human rights lawyer, Eleanor Marsh, who had won lawsuits against large corporations. Eleanor looked at the file, frowning. Do you know who you're fighting? Sophia nodded. I know, but I have nothing left to lose. Eleanor filed a lawsuit against Evans Holdings for unlawful interference in personal life, abuse of power in commercial transactions, defamation of personal reputation through the media. At the same time, Sophia also filed a complaint of misconduct with the Savannah Business Ethics Committee. She knew the chances of winning were slim. The Evans family had countless lawyers, money, and influence. But for the first time, Sophia felt like she was no longer the prey. She had chosen the fight, and no matter the outcome, she had won herself. The morning Sophia received the news that the hearing had officially opened, she sat on the steps of her small apartment, watching the first sunrise in days of rain. The cold wind blew through her hair, but in her heart, the fire could not be extinguished. She whispered, I will not fall. Not again. In the distance, the city of Savannah slowly woke up. And Sophia Evans, for the first time, woke up in her own life. On the morning of the formal hearing, Sophia stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment. A simple charcoal dress. Her hair neatly tied back. Her eyes were straight. She was no longer the innocent girl she had been, trembling in the face of her parents' anger. She was Sophia Evans, not a copy of the Evans family, but herself. Daniel took her hand before she walked out the door. I'm proud of you. Sophia smiled, her eyes shining. Today, you fought for everyone who has ever been suffocated by things that were meant to be loved. The Savannah courthouse was packed with reporters that morning. The Evans family had sent a formidable team of lawyers. Cold gray suits, disdainful glances, thick files. Clara and Walter Evans sat in the front row, expressionless. To them, this was just a media accident that needed to be dealt with neatly. Eleanor Marsh, Sophia's lawyer, whispered, they want to use pressure to break you. Don't let them see you shake. Sophia nodded. She felt her hands tremble slightly, but her heart, as solid as granite. Evans Holdings was quick to explain. All business decisions were based on market principles. There was no clear evidence of unlawful interference. The defamatory article about Daniel had nothing to do with Evans. They painted a picture. Evans was a victim of Sophia's youthful rebellion. The family only wanted the best for her. Everything that had happened was just an unfortunate coincidence. Sophia sat listening. Her lips pressed together. They truly believed that a lie repeated enough times would become the truth. Not today. Not anymore. When it was her turn, Eleanor presented each piece of evidence. A recording of Clara and Sophia's meeting at the River Cafe, a subtle threat. Internal emails between Evans Holdings and several local banks, a request to take a close look at Sophia's credit file. Illegal invoices showing Evans Holdings buying up an anonymous loan related to Daniel. The courtroom erupted. Camera flashes flashed. Clara Evans clutched her purse. Walter Evans frowned, but tried to keep his cool. The judge allowed Sophia to stand. She stepped to the stand. The room fell silent. Sophia took a deep breath, her voice booming, calm but strong. I'm not here to destroy my family. I'm here to reclaim my right to live. The Evanses have always taught me that honor is above all else. But what honor is worth sacrificing personal freedom? I love my family, but love is no excuse for manipulation, control, and destruction. I chose to step out of the shadows. I chose myself. None of Evans' lawyers had a word to say. No one can suppress the truth when it is spoken from the heart. At the end of the hearing, the judge concluded, Evans Holdings violated business ethics. The Evans family must pay Sophia financial damages. Evans Holdings was required to publicly apologize and promise not to repeat the interference. Sophia didn't care much about the compensation. She cared about the truth being recorded. She cared about the fact that, for the first time, She had the courage to stand up for herself. The news spread throughout Savannah. Some longtime partners quietly withdrew from Evans Holdings. Banks refused to extend credit. The media no longer praises the Evans family as before. Walter Evans announces early retirement. Clara Evans goes to convalesce in Florida. Sophia knows they will not forgive her. But she also knows if it costs her freedom, she is willing. After the trial, Sophia and Daniel decide to leave Savannah. They move to Asheville, North Carolina, a small mountainside town where the wind blows freely and life is simpler. Sophia opens a small interior design studio. Daniel opens a carpentry shop. They are not rich, but every day when Sophia wakes up, she knows. Everything around her is her choice. No one controls. No one judges. One late autumn evening, Sophia sits on the porch, watching the yellow lights twinkle in the valley. Daniel is repairing an old table. The sound of wood planing echoes in the cold air. Sophia closes her eyes, takes a deep breath. She remembered. The Talmadge Memorial Bridge. The days of crying alone. The nights of facing despair. All of it no longer hurt her. They were the fires that forged her into who she is today. A phoenix. Burned. Died. And now, flying, stronger than ever. Sophia whispered softly, as if to herself. Not everyone born in a golden cage belongs there. Not every family is love. And freedom is always worth it, even if the price is sometimes high. In the Asheville night sky, the stars twinkled as if to congratulate her. An old chapter closed. A new one opened. And Sophia Evans became the writer of her own story. Asheville welcomes Sophia with fresh breezes and blue skies. The small town is nestled in the woods, with lovely wooden houses with steep roofs and cafes with the fragrant smell of baked goods. Sophia and Daniel rent a small house on the hillside, a cozy living room, an open kitchen filled with light, a backyard filled with fragrant lavender flowers. No more marble villas. No more fancy cocktail parties. Just real life. Every morning, Sophia wakes up to the chirping of birds, makes herself a cup of hot coffee, and feels grateful to be alive, to have choices, to breathe. Sophia opens a small studio, Solace Interiors Yanbin Furniture. She starts with small projects, decorating rooms for young families, designing art cafes, consulting on renovating old houses. No one in Asheville cared that she was an Evans daughter. They saw only Sophia, hardworking, sincere, and passionate. Every design she drew, every home she decorated, every smiling customer was a small proof that she had chosen the right path. It was not an easy path, but it was her path. Daniel opened a small carpentry shop right behind his house. His hands, rough, covered in wood dust, created beautiful, authentic objects. A heavy oak dining table, a softly curved bookshelf, a window with wooden shutters that smelled of nature. At first, visitors were few, but then, with his skill and dedication, Daniel won the trust of the whole town. Sophia and Daniel no longer were storm fighters. They became builders of a warm little world, brick by brick, piece by piece of love. Sometimes on rainy nights, Sophia still dreams of Savannah. The cold stone houses, the critical glances over glasses of wine, the polite but dagger-filled conversations. She wakes up, her heart heavy. But Daniel is always there. A tight hug, a whisper. I'm here. Slowly, Sophia learns not to erase the wound, not to deny the pain, but to embrace it as part of the journey that makes her stronger. One afternoon in early winter, Sophia receives a handwritten letter. Not an email, not a lawyer, just a letter. The sender, Clara Evans. She writes, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I do want you to be happy. I used to think that love was about control, but maybe true love is letting you fly away even if you don't come back. Wishing you a life of freedom, Sophia. Sophia folded the letter, tears streaming down her face, not from regret, but from relief. Although it was late, she finally understood. On her 31st birthday, Sophia sat on the front steps of her house, holding a glass of red wine, watching the sunset dye the valley purple. Daniel stepped out, placing his hand on her shoulder. No words, No words needed, because everything that needed to be said was in their eyes. Sophia told herself, "I've been through it all. Manipulated, betrayed, abandoned. But I've also loved, lived authentically, chosen myself. I've failed, but I've also been reborn. And that is the greatest victory." Later that year, Sophia received a great opportunity. An interior design firm in Asheville invited her to collaborate on a project to renovate old houses into an art inn. An ambitious, challenging project. Sophia smiled. Before, she might have hesitated, feared, asked her parents for permission. But now, she signed the contract immediately, her heart full of excitement. Because she knew, "I no longer live to please anyone else. I live to fulfill my own dreams." One night, when the whole town slept under a layer of silver mist, Sophia stood on the top of a hill. Looking up at the starry sky, she spread her arms, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath of the cold air. She felt the old wounds were no longer heavy. The painful memories were just paving stones. A pair of invisible wings were spreading out in her chest. She was no longer the frightened little girl in the Savannah cage. She was a phoenix, burned, fallen, and rose, proud, from the ashes.